Okay, this is the beginnings of it. Understanding, I mean, just as a wheelie, I'm always in the friction zone of the machine. If you guys notice there, my clutch is in right now. Right, you can hear that bite. And I'm using that slip to maintain balance, just like I was talking about. You hear that bike? I'm never idling. This is a common thing that I see from riders. They're off, and then their bike stalls, right? They're always, and you're gonna see it as we get into the cone stuff. Riders are like this, on and off. I'm nice and steady here. You can hear, steady throttle, and I'm using that friction zone on my clutch to maintain control. Now, if I do a wheelie, I'm also slipping. If you notice here, and I don't know if you guys can see my finger, but if I'm doing a wheelie, I'm in that friction zone right there. Always maintaining a tractable slip. Can you hear the bike? Right there for your wheelie, for your double blip, for your splatter, for your control. Understanding the friction zone is so key. How we maintain tractable control with that friction zone is a huge piece of what we are going to do right now. Now, that's higher level, but the base of it is right here. Rolling back and forth on an incline. This is simple, simple, simple. And again, we're going to develop and get harder and harder, but what we're doing here is holding a steady throttle and we're rolling up and down this hill. So we aren't using brakes, first off. We're only using our power to maintain control. So if you feel yourself reaching for that rear brake, reaching for your rear brake or front brake, especially your front, you have a bad habit. On inclines, your front brake doesn't hardly do anything. So I'm going to show you. And I mean, but if I start to roll back and grab my front, right? I just slid 10 feet, right? The front brake didn't do anything because your front tire is de-weighted. The steeper it gets, the less it's going to do. We are only going to use our throttle and clutch. If you feel yourself grabbing for your front brake, you have a bad habit. If you stall the bike, you got to get better at clutch control. One time. One stall means you got to get better, okay? So the steeper it is, the harder it is. And I'll show you here what we're talking about. Again, if you're just beginning, right here is key. Nice, slow. Hear that bike. Rolling back. Still in the friction zone, aren't I? I add a little bit of power, slip out on the clutch, we're starting movement. If the bike starts or stops like this, I add a little more power, still maintaining the friction zone, right? I'm not moving my finger at all, it's stationary in the friction zone. Add a little bit of power, out a little bit with the clutch, now we're moving. Hear that bike, nice and low. We're not up there, right? We're low. Low power, clutch in a bit more. I throttle down a little bit. We're rolling back. If I go too fast, I slip out a little bit. I know this sounds real simple, but some of you may stall and you need to get better at it. And then on top of that, harder it is. Slipping. Controlled, right? Do I look scared? Nice and slow. Release, clutch. Using that friction zone. slip of the clutch. That friction zone is everything. You need to get good at it. And again, if you stall the bike, you got to get better at it. Did I stall? This thing's loaded to the gills. She was like,
she wants to bark.
Yeah, spitting out gook and pucky. So spread out, roll back and forth. We're going to add a little bit to it after you guys get that. Again, if you feel yourself reaching for that front brake, you got a bad habit. If you stall it, you need to get better at clutch control. Rolling back and forth. Oh yeah, one question I always get is, will this wear out your clutch? No. You guys are all good though. Everybody here, I'll tell you right now, I put hundreds of hours on clutch plates on KTM. How you feeling?
That was perfect, dude.
Oh boy. Good job, guys. Hold on just one sec. Right, it's very small. And within that ½ inch of throw, there is so much difference in how much we're delivering to the ground, right? So learning that friction zone, that ½ inch, if you watch my finger while I'm doing everything, it is just moving like that. And I'm trying to never go all the way out or all the way in, okay? In this situation.
Just flowing with it.
Yes. Kind of flowing, trying to find where that bike is engaging, the tractability of the rear, all of that, right? We're just focusing on all of the nuances within that friction zone. Now, how many of you stalled it?
Once.
There we go. If you stalled it once, you gotta get better. How many of you felt like you maybe had to grab your front brake?
Once.
Yeah, right? You start to go backwards, you're like, whoa, you're gonna grab that front brake. And then you're gonna be in trouble. So make sure you're used to getting to that friction zone. So one added little piece that I like to do with that friction zone control is finding a steady slip and maintain of movement on the hill, right? So we go up and we hold that bike in one position. Once we're at that place where the bike is steady, staying, we're holding the power on, but we're maintaining, you know, we're not moving at all. We switch back and forth from rear brake to clutch slip. Rear brake, clutch slip, rear brake, clutch slip. Being able to do that quickly is extremely important, and I'll explain why as I give you the example. I'll just do it right here. Oops, guess what? I got to get better at clutch control. So as we are set here in that maintain slip, our bike's in one position, it's not moving back and forth. We switch back and forth from rear brake to clutch without stalling and without moving. If you feel your bike moving back and forth, that means you're just not quite precise enough with that clutch control. So here you go. So right, we've rolled up the hill. We find that slip, boom, we're in one position. We add the rear brake, clutch is in, right? We slip. Now notice here, I can slip, switch, back and forth, clutch, rear brake, clutch, clutch, rear brake. Bike's not moving, is it? This is so key for those close quarter gnarly situations. You get into a position where maybe, you know, you've got a cliff behind you or something gnarly. You need to be able to find that brake, slip that clutch, start that bike, slip, release, maintain movement, right? Or being able to refire the bike and find the friction zone. Sometimes you're in a situation where you can't put your foot on the rear brake, right? Sometimes you're in a situation where all you have is front, right? The bike wants to move right now. Notice I'll push the starter first. That'll kind of lunge that bike forward, and then I'll find the friction zone. Right into that slip, right? There's so many situations where I use that. I mean, dude, there'll be times where I'm pushing up a gnarly cliff and I'll use my starter to kick me forward, or fire it and go right into that slip, right? So understanding this position, finding the slip, switching back and forth, clutch slip, brake, clutch slip, brake, clutch slip, brake, every single time. Three, four, five, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might as well. Second round. Good job, guys. Okay. How many of you fell backwards down the hill? Somebody did. That'll happen. Yeah, you'll get that on these big jobs. So, what are you guys feeling there? I love it. So, understand, and one last little bit of that clutch control piece that I want you guys to understand is when I'm doing just about anything, especially technical mountainous stuff, I'm always in that slip. And I'm gonna probably repeat that 15 times today. If I'm goofing around on something, I'll go, listen, 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 hear that? Hear the bike? I like those ones. I need to come out with my own cone, don't I? Like weighted on the bottom, have my logo on it. Big cone guy. Yeah. So about that friction zone, just as an added little bit, I want everybody to listen here. Listen to the sound. Steady. That understanding of the friction zone when I do, hear the bike? Low power. Always. See if we can get all the way up this. You guys hear the bike? Yeah, sting, but I'm never all the way out, and I'm never all the way in. If I went all the way out with the clutch or all the way in with the clutch, I wouldn't be able to maintain a wheelie.